So I'm so excited. This is our sixth of 7 sessions in our Shine On 2022 program. And we danced and we've talked about our biggest challenge. And now we're going to go into a special presentation. I've asked my sister Dorothy to take a few minutes and show us how to create a secure place where we can store our finances and our credit, that which we would need in a natural disaster to rebuild our credit identity. Now, it used to be that you had to send copies of everything to someone out of state and ask them to put it in a safe deposit box. But now we have technology that can allow us to do this very, very easily. So Dorothy, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to spotlight you, and then we're going to just let you show us.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yes, there are many ways that you can save those documents. The problem is saving them in a private and protected way. And I can assure you that Google is not the answer. They have much too much information on all of us. But when it comes to our important documents, those documents that we could use to rebuild our credit or to prove whatever we need to prove, the only safe online place that you could access from your phone, you could access from your computer, an iPad, whatever medium of technology you want to use, is forever.com. And I talked a little bit about it last week. And I'm going to share my screen. And it says you've disabled screen sharing.
Let me make you a co-host.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, let's try that again. There it is. Okay, so I will share my screen. And so when you you just go to forever.com and it would bring you to this page and you would sign in. So, I'm in the wrong place. This is where I wanted to be. So you would sign in, you create a free account, you sign in, and it brings you to your library. And when you start, your library is blank, and you would hit this upload button, choose files from my computer, and go to wherever it is. For this example, I'm going to use recipes because I don't need everyone to see my personal documents. But so I didn't save them right. So anyway, you would go to choose files for my computer. The files have to be PDF. They do not accept Word, which is what I did, and that's why they're not showing up. But you would grab those documents from here, and you would say open, and then it would start uploading. And when you finish uploading, you're going to organize those files in your account. And
so
do that.
Dorothy, we're still seeing the main forever.com page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not seeing choose from my files or upload or anything.
Sorry. Okay. Zoom changes things on me sometimes, and makes it
sometimes you have to stop sharing, Dorothy, and
that's
share
what
again.
I have to do. That's what I'll have to do, and I'll just have to share my screen instead of going to a particular screen. Okay, so this is what your library looks like, and you would select the documents that you want to put in an album. And you would select those by holding down the shift key, or you could just click each box and you would add them to an album. And it will say, do you want a new album? Do you want one of your original albums? An album that's already created. And you can create an album that says important documents, that says identity, that says tax documents, whatever you want to put in there, you're going to label it the way that you want to. The important thing is right here, you're going to put the name of the album, and then right here, you're going to make this private so that only you can see it. You're not going to share it with family and friends. You're not going to make it public. You're just going to keep it private. You don't want anyone else to see it. And you can add a description, or you don't have to. You don't have to add a date. And then you would just hit add to new album. Now, the thing that is in this account, I have another account, it's my own personal account. This is the beginning of a demo account. But what this is the step-by-step cards that show you exactly how to do what I just described. To upload those documents, you can also upload photos, videos, audio, all of that into Forever albums. And I am going to share this album and copy this link, and I'm going to put it in the chat. And then you can follow the steps, step by step, of how to put these important documents in your own personal Forever account. And the thing that you have to know about Forever, if you missed last week, Forever is private, Forever is permanent, Forever is triple encrypted and secure, and they have a guarantee that. Let's see, that's not going to let me do it. They have a guarantee that they guarantee the preservation of your photos and documents for your lifetime plus 100 years. And there's a whole big long explanation for how they can make that promise, which I'm not going to go into today. I would be happy to share that information. If you want to contact me one-on-one, I am happy to talk to you about storing your documents, storing your photos, whatever it is that you want to preserve and to be able to access from anywhere, any mobile device or computer or whatever way you're trying to access your things, because the time will come when, or not for all of us, but probably some of us, where you won't be able to access the tangible documents that you need. And you're going to have to rely on that backup that's in Forever, that's there and permanently saved for you.
So Dorothy, how many documents could you put in a free Forever account?
So it's a 2 gigabyte account. It depends on how big the document is. Like if you had a PDF that's 84 pages, then that it's different than a document that's just 1 or 2 pages. So probably 100, 200. I don't know,
Wow.
but
so there's
a
enough
lot
in a free account to really give you enough to have your important financial documents, your passport, your driver's license.
Yes.
So that if you lost everything, you would still
Yes.
be able to prove your identity. Sheila has asked, can you save it for yourself and one other person, like a spouse?
Yes, of course. So you can have your account set up. You can share your password with someone. Like if it's a spouse, I wouldn't recommend sharing your password with, even all your children. But if you have one person that you trust to manage your things, your affairs, then yes, you could share the password with them. But there's also a way to set up an account manager, and that account manager can manage your account. even the private folders in your account. So it still has to be someone that you trust. But it's a way to preserve your things. So if something happened to me tomorrow, my daughters are my account managers. They can access anything in my account. So my will, all my anything that is in my account, they can have access to it. And it's part of the preservation settings. Forever is the only company that has really thought long-term, like beyond your lifetime, really. I mean, most other sites, almost all other sites, have termination of your account upon your death. So anything that you have stored there is gone.
Yeah.
Your spouse, your children have access to nothing.
Right.
So
Amber is asking, she has all of her documents are in paper form. How would you recommend getting them into PDF?
you can
Take a photo of them, right?
you could take a photo of them. That would put them in a JPEG, and it accepts JPEGs, of course. So yes, you could take a picture of it. You could scan it on your if you've got a printer scanner. You could have it scanned somewhere else. But yes, you've got to get that in digital form. It is so important to get those papers in digital form. If you had a flood, if you had a fire, if a tornado hit your house, everything is gone that is not in digital form and not saved in a permanent way.
Right. So
Dorothy, I was going to ask, so if you took a picture though with a JPEG, so it's a JPEG is one thing, but then it's on your phone, it's not on your computer. And if you're, some people don't have the smartphones with the cameras or whatever, or they don't, like Amber's issue was, she says I'm not, big techno person. So then transferring the JPEG to the computer. So I put in the chat an app that I had to use during the pandemic called TurboScan, which was like $8. You get like a few free scans, and then it's like $8 one. You don't have to pay monthly. It's just once. But I've had to use it for like legal documents where you can't send a JPEG. It has to be a PDF.
Yes.
It has to be printable, where you're having to sign a document. We had to send documents to Canada or whatever. So that really worked great. And you can email them to yourself, and then they're on your computer. So if you have a smartphone, that works great. So I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but I highly recommend it. My lawyers told me about it, and I tell everyone it's like the best easy app. It's really easy to use, and you can do it for anything, but it turns anything into a PDF. Or you can just take a picture. It's just basically using your camera. So
the only concern I would have is just with security. Like, I don't know who owns that, and I don't know what the terms of service are. I read the terms of service for everything when it comes to important documents and even photos, because I want to know how they're going to be used. And if, after 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, can they sell those things? Can they, use that information? I just, I'm always skeptical, but if you've read the terms of service, then I would trust.
Well, I didn't really have an option because I had to sign legal documents and scan them, and get them in via,
you couldn't, what you have to do.
But I mean, the idea is that you can turn something into a PDF, and then you can load it into Forever or whatever. You could delete it off of the app. I mean, you don't have to keep the documents, but I mean, if your email gets hacked into, then you can lose lots of info too. So it's one of the reasons, and it actually is the question I had. Do you get your, all the banks they don't want to mail you bank statements anymore. And that adds to clutter. It's like this question on both sides of it. Like, I'm sure we all have. Melody smiling, I can see. We all have these statements, and I constantly get, when I go into my apps on my phone, go paperless. But that means that they're either going to email it to you, or they're going to trigger you to go and get it from them, and they keep them for so long. So Do you have any? I would like to go paperless, but I keep resisting it because I'm really, you know what I mean? Like I have
Yes.
I have one foot in both centuries. So
I am right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Me too.
I've gone paperless for some things, but other things I'm like, I'm not sure I want to do that yet. So yes, and it's a personal decision. It's what you feel comfortable with, and what you feel like is the safest and most secure way to get your bills and pay your bills and all of that. I mean, there's always risk. There's always risk when anything goes, is passed over the internet.
Well, and I also asked my financial advisor about the difference because I'm in the same boat, resisting going paperless for a while on bank statements in particular, but ultimately I just recently did that. And the reason that I chose to do it is he said, if you have a lot of papers lying around and then someone grabs that paper, that especially if you have people coming in and out of your space, like I do in my parents' house, I'm managing 2 homes right now. So if they were to pick up a document or take a picture of a document, then they would have that financial information.
Yes.
Really frightening to me,
Yes.
Yeah, but a while back in the chat, I also put a question about it. Forever.com is only by invitation.
It's not by invitation, but you do need an ambassador, because there are so many products and services that Forever offers that the time will come when you just don't know what to do next, or and just having an ambassador. So when you sign up for an account under an ambassador, you have, it will show up at the top of your screen when you log in. Your ambassador is Dorothy Tucker, or Ellen Sue Parker is also a Forever ambassador. She's been quiet on this, but she has seen the value in Forever and decided to become a Forever ambassador so that she could share it with her family and friends. So, but yes, you do need an ambassador. So if you can sign up without one, but it will ask you who you want your ambassador to be. And sometimes people choose someone local. Sometimes people choose someone who introduced them to Forever, someone that they know. If if Ellen Sue Parker is who you want to put as your ambassador, then do that. But I am always happy to help anyone with anything related to preserving photos, documents, anything that has to do with preserving your memories.
My question, so we can put your name as our ambassador. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't.
Sorry. And I don't want to take up all Melody's time. I know she's got a lot to cover tonight. So if anyone is interested in doing a follow-up, I could do one Wednesday night. If you want to put in the chat, if you're interested in that, I would be happy to do that, but I don't want to take any more Melody's time.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. That was wonderful. Yeah. So, all right, let me, let's see. All right. I'd love to see your faces, so I wanted to get the gallery view back. Dorothy, I know you've been up since 3 in the morning, so if you need to get off and make an early night, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. All right. So I wanted Dorothy to share that with you because one of my organizing projects is to create so years ago, I had mailed my oldest daughter a list of all my passwords and where she would find everything because she would be the executor if both of us died. And now I want to create a Forever account that I can share with her and with my husband so that all of our things will be in one place in case there's a natural disaster. So I wanted you to have sort of a framework of how to set that up. All right, so let's just move our bodies a bit and take some deep breaths, because we are going to begin to talk about time. And yay. So one of my favorite quotes is one that I paraphrase from James Clear, who is the author of Atomic Habits. And he says, we do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And so I say, we do not rise to the level of our decluttering and organizing goals. We fall to the level of our organizing systems. So one of the vectors that we've talked about, whenever we talk about getting things organized in the home or the workspace, we have to interact in the vector of space and in the vector of time. Because if you just start and you maybe do a few sessions organizing your space, implementing systems, but then you don't put on your schedule a repeated, reoccurring event, if you don't manage your time, you're not creating a time management system that will allow you to get the space itself complete. So if we want to transform the way our rooms feel and function, we have to devote time to the process of releasing everything that no longer serves and putting those systems in place. So the very first thing you're going to want to put in your calendar as a reoccurring event is time for what we've talked about as the decluttering process. Thank you, Christine. Christine has just posted in the chat the link to, if you are interested in setting up a Forever account, the link to do that with Dorothy as your ambassador. Thank you. But what I want you to know about your time management system is you're going to be decluttering until, let's say that you had chosen your garage as a place you needed to start. Then you're going to put blocks of time on your calendar that say 3 hours garage, decluttering garage, until all of the items you no longer use that are in the garage have been released. They have gone off to be donated. They've gone off to be dumped. Uh-oh, somebody's making noise. If you're not talking, mute yourself. Or they have gone off to be recycled in some way. And then when you've got all the decluttering done, then those blocks of time change to something even more fun than decluttering. And then what you do is you write in organized garage. And that's where you're actually putting a system in place for the items that have to be stored in the garage. And I think I've mentioned to you things like, you know, if you're storing out of season, like holiday decorations, or your seasonal altar items you're not using in bins in the garage, color code those bins. Put all of the Christmas stuff in red, put all of the Easter stuff in pink. Whatever you have, just organize it in a way that's just visually, you know what is in that bin by looking at the color of the bin, or maybe you get the clear bins and you can see what's inside and there's a label on the front. So it's really fun putting these systems in place. So if garage is your priority, you'll declutter. And then when you're done with that, you'll put the systems, you'll organize. And then you'll go on to using that same block of time that same reoccurring block of time for your next big priority. Maybe it's the home office, maybe it's the kitchen. And so these blocks of time, they're going to just be in your weekly calendar. So does anybody have any questions about that? About the idea that I'm sharing of really allowing yourself to have this gift of time that you're giving yourself. It's also like you're making a date. Now, if you made a date with your doctor, if you made it a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment or an appointment with a lawyer or another professional, you would not just look at that appointment an hour ahead of time and say, oh, I don't really want to do that today. Would we? We just wouldn't do that. Why? Because we knew that we would be charged for the time if we don't show up, right? So I want you to take your dates with your space as seriously and make as big a commitment to your space as you would make to your dentist or your doctor or your lawyer. Like your space is more important to your daily well-being than your relationship with your dentist, right? So I want it to be more important to you, right? And so here's where I want to talk about, let's be realistic. Now, sometimes we get over ambitious and we set ourselves up to fail by saying, oh, well, you know what? I think I can spend 15 hours this week decluttering and organizing, when we also work full-time and we're caring for an aging parent. That is probably not realistic. And if you're not realistic and you're overly ambitious, that sets you up to fail, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to be realistic. I want it to be a bit of a stretch, but I don't want it to be too much of a stretch that you just feel at this end of the week like, oh, I'm just a failure. Why should I try? So for some of you, that's going to be 30 minutes every morning. For some of you, it'll be 3 hours on Mondays and Fridays. Or for some of you, it'll be 4 hours on Saturday afternoon. Our schedules and commitments are each unique. But before we get off the call tonight, I want you to think about it and make a commitment to yourself what your time schedule is going to be. And then put that in your calendar. As soon as we're done tonight, put it in your calendar. Now, I'm going to share something that I have learned the hard way over the years about brain health and productivity. So I want to talk about brain function. Years ago, I worked with a productivity coach, a time management coach. One of the things I learned from her is that neurologists and mental health experts talk about how we have to be good guardians of our neurological health, our brain health. Technology is both a gift and a curse. It has connected us as never before, but if used in the wrong way, our technology can actually harm our brain health. So the wisdom I share is based on what I learned from the productivity coach, my own research, my own experience, and recommendations from my doctor. All right. So I would like us all to consider a rule of no devices in the morning. No devices until you have started your day in a way that is meaningful to you, that is centering and grounding to you. Whether you do breath work, you meditate, you kneel by your bed and say a prayer, you do some yoga stretches, whatever, maybe it's a cold shower, whatever your spiritual / physical process is that you know really works for your body. Let's just make a, let's make a rule. Let me just ask us to raise our hands and be vulnerable for anyone. When the alarm clock goes off, you reach for the phone before you have ever gotten out of bed and you're reading the news or you're looking at your email. How many of us have ever done this ever in our lives? Ever? Okay, lots of hands are going up. Yeah, lots of hands. Now, that is not a healthy way to start the day. It's just not. And so I'm going to ask us to refrain from doing anything except turning off the alarm and getting up and starting that, whatever your ritual is, whatever it is. And then I'm going to ask you to do something as simple as making your bed. Now, the productivity coach, that was one of the first things she asked me. Do you make your bed when you get out of it? And my answer is not if my husband is still in it, but otherwise, yes. And if usually we get up together and we make the bed together. But one of the things that simple act does of just pulling up the covers and straightening and putting the pillow on is it announces to the room. It announces to you and to the room that you are worthy of a beautiful and ordered environment. So, so you've started your day with some kind of beautiful ritual. You've made your bed. And then I recommend that you expose yourself to something uplifting and inspiring. Maybe you listen to an uplifting, inspiring music or a podcast, or you read something, an inspirational book or quote while you're eating breakfast. One of the things I discovered, and my productivity coach, I had been doing this already for 30 years when I met up with her, and she was like, oh my gosh, that's a brilliant idea. Marry things that you consistently do, like eat breakfast. I consistently every day eat breakfast with things you know you want to do. And so I take that time to inspire myself. I try to avoid attempting to inspire myself with the news, because the news, I don't know if you all have noticed, is not inspiring. So all of this is setting you up to have a positive emotional and mental outlook and good physical energy as you begin your day. And then set one priority for your day and do that most important work. And by setting up your most important priority for the day, I don't mean a list of 10 things. I mean one priority, and do that thing first. Not that you can't have anything else on your list, but one is a priority. And then batch your time in blocks and do your tasks. After you've done the priority, do your tasks when you have the most energy for them. And if we have more time at the end, you can ask me questions about that, and we'll talk about biorhythm. Have only what you are currently working on. If you're at your desk, have only what you are currently working on the surface with you. Why? Why is that important for brain health? Because if you have distractions because you've got piles and files and other items, your brain isn't going to easily be able to focus. And then don't switch back and forth from your work to email or social media. What the productivity coach recommended for me, she put me on a diet, really, and I'm going to share it with you, and you might want to try this on. I get to, there's a point in my morning where I get to check my email before I get on with my clients, before my client Zooms begin. And then I get to check my email or social media again at lunch. And then before my workday ends, I get to check again. But what happens is if you are on with a client and then you're trying to get a project done, but you're back and forth and your social media is dinging or your email is dinging every time an email comes in, your brain function drastically drops, drastically. So turn off the audio notifications on your devices. And you might even want to put a do not disturb sign on the door and just turn your devices into airplane mode or, so they're not receiving, so that you can actually focus on your projects. Now, when you do go to the mailbox and you bring in the mail, sort that mail immediately. What goes in the recycle bin goes in the recycle bin. What goes to different stations, my husband has an inbox, I have one, put them there. And then as soon as at the end of each day, I look over the items that came into that inbox place and put them where they need to go in order to be attended to. And so that way papers and things don't pile up. Clear your desk every night. And I think I've shown you this a couple of times, but I have a pretty little folder, and it's my to-do folder. And if there's something that comes in the mail that I need to calendar or schedule or something I need to follow up on, it goes right in here. And then at the end of each workday, I check that to see, do I have a few, I usually end my client sessions well before my workday ends, so that I've got at least an hour to clear my desk and to check my to-do folder and to get some of those smaller projects done. The other thing I do every night, and this may or may not work for you, but try these on, is I clear my kitchen every night. I make sure that things are put in the dishwasher, that my tea is steeping in the mug, will be warm for me in the morning. I just prepare for a good morning the night before. All right, so now let's look at what the productivity coach and my doctor and my research recommends for how you might structure the week. Now, how many of you, raise your hand, how many of you are still working in any kind of a professional or full-time or part-time job, or you are an entrepreneur and you are working in your own business? Raise your hand. Okay, that's helpful for me to see. Now, keep your hands up if you are an entrepreneur and you are and you're basically the one and only person in your business. Okay, that is helpful for me to see. All right. So those of you who kept your hands up will be very interested in this weekly bit here. So consider devoting a day of the week for self-care. A day of the week for self-care. Now, this self-care for me includes care for my home. It includes care for my body, my mind, my heart, and my home. And Fridays are my day that I engage in self-care. And consider having a separate time for those of you who are entrepreneurs. Consider having a separate day or block of time to up-level or to work on your business, not in your business, but on your business. So on Mondays, I work on my business. I invoice, I do my marketing, I meet with my coach. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I work in my business. I meet with clients. Most of them are Zoom, but some of them I still travel. I go to my clients' homes. And those are usually Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Fridays are my self-care day. So if I'm going to have body work or massage or a hair appointment, even doing laundry and cleaning the house is on Fridays. Now, I will occasionally make an exception if Friday is the only day or Monday is the only day I can see a certain client, but I usually stick to this schedule because it works really well. Now, I facilitate women's empowerment circles, and those are on the weekends. And I also do a lot of racial equity work in the community, and that is usually on weekends. So I make sure that at least 1 or 2 weekends a month are for me. They are restorative. They're time I spend with my husband or family or friends. All right, now let's get a little bit more nitty gritty. Even if you don't do the self-care thing on Friday, I'm still going to recommend that you schedule at least an hour on Friday to handle the filing, your inbox, to sort of organize your mental space and your physical space and your digital space for the week ahead. Now, obviously, we've talked about this, scheduling weekly decluttering and organizing dates until your home and workspace functions and feels the way you prefer. All right. One other thing about, well, 2 things that I do weekly as a gift to my space. In almost each room in the house, I have a little glass bottle, or sometimes they're plastic, that looks like this. And this is a blend that a friend made, but it is literally a room mist, right? With essential oils and flower essences. And it smells absolutely wonderful. And I've got a more energizing mist in the public areas of my home, where I have friends over, where I prepare food in the kitchen. I have a more, this one is more essential oils and flower essences that are for mental clarity and focus. And then I have one that's really wonderful for the bedroom. That's kind of a romantic, restful scent. And literally, I will go through at least once a week, every room in the house and do a room mist. And of course, we all know about how wonderful sage is. And I grow sage in my garden and harvest it and make little sage bundles so that I can smudge my home, because that not only rids the air of toxins, it really is a wonderful transformation to the subtle energy in the room. And I'm going to grab off my altar the final one that I want to show you. And that is that in my office and in the main living area of our house, I always have fresh flowers, except for in like the dead of winter. I like to buy my flowers at the organic farmers market. And of course, they're not open in the winter. So in November at the last farmers market, I buy some really bright dried flowers. Those are gifting, those are like on my altars for several months until the market opens again in the spring. And so these came from the market on Saturday. So anytime you have flowers or live plants, you can see plants behind me, you know, they have a living, flowers and plants are living. They have a spirit. there's chi that they're actually adding to the space. So from my perspective, having fresh or recently dried flowers in your space is a gift you can give to the space that also gives something to you. It also adds to your own, it uplifts your own mood and energy level. All right. Any questions about daily or weekly? Any questions about anything I've covered so far?
Melody, just back at the top of the daily thing,
Uh-huh.
about the fourth bullet down, it says keep K. What is
Oh,
that?
That was a typo. Sorry.
Oh.
That shouldn't be there.
Just get rid of the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Sorry about that. I did send out a workbook today that doesn't have that typo. So, but if you've already printed it out, I wouldn't bother reprinting. Any other questions? How many of you have ever heard these ideas about keeping your brain health by separating your tasks from your email and social media? Christine, you have? Christine, do you follow that format? Do you?
When I'm doing what I should be. Not
Okay.
always. I mean, I do as far as not starting out my day on the computer. I do take one day a week usually where I start my day with work because I'm really productive in those early morning hours. I don't do it often because it doesn't keep me in balance, but usually one day a week, I'll roll out of bed and roll into my office chair and like knock out some hard stuff for the week because I found that my body just works well that way. But I turn off my alarm and stay off my phone while I'm walking outside. Yeah, I definitely do that for my morning routines. And I don't like to ever check email, but I have to during the day sometimes. So, but I'm often checking it when I'm on a call with somebody like that. They're like, "Hey, did you get this email?" And so I don't have set times, but I'm not a all the time checker of my email. So I comply with the ones I like, Melody.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Caroline.
I wanted to say that, thank you for that overview. I have heard, I think, of most of those things, but what I hadn't heard of and what was a new piece and you really drew me in with was for brain health and neurological health. So I'm really curious to read more about that. And I think too, and maybe some of you are in this situation. So my father had dementia, and it's something that I'm just like, it scares me, and I am forgetful, and I know it's because of, the busyness and the stress. But I like, how can I avoid that? And it can't be this overwhelming, oh my God, I'm so terrified, but could it be little incremental things that I do for myself? So I thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Limiting our time spent on our devices and then organizing how we are going to receive information and how we're going to process information, and just making some clear boundaries around that, and following through with that is going to be really important. One of the things that you may all have heard by now from your doctors, and if you haven't, you should have, is that when you're working on a project, don't allow interruptions. Stay focused on the project rather than, going from one thing. Now, if you have small babies in the house, all bets are off and you're going to feel like you have dementia for a while. But really, your brain function will be so much better if you can give yourself a block of time without interruptions. Anybody else want to make it? Libby.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you too. I love the way that I'd heard bits and pieces, but I never had this comprehensive pulling it all together, which shows where each thing should go. So that was really helpful. And then also sometimes I'll go into the room and it'll feel overwhelming. I'll just sort of do my hands like this and feel like my brain's against my head. And I thought probably following some of this as well as more rhythm in that 3-hour slot would probably be really helpful. I mean, just sort of like it crystallized there. Thank you.
Right. And Libby, what I want to say to you and to all of us who have some pretty big projects, and we have to be in and out of those rooms or areas where the clutter is there and it can feel overwhelming. There is a method, and I may have mentioned it before, but I'm going to share it again here. There is a method that really does work to take down that feeling of overwhelm. And that is to do the same thing that you would do if you were running late to lunch with friends, or you were running late to an appointment. You would text the person and say, I'm on my way. I'll be there 10 minutes late. So they would know exactly what was going on and when you were going to arrive, and they wouldn't just be like looking at the window the whole time or whatever. So when you walk into a room and you feel, whether it's the closet or the bathroom or the kitchen, and you feel all the items sort of jangling your attention, you can take a deep breath and say out loud, thank you for waiting for me. I see you there. I appreciate that you're waiting for me. I'm coming as soon as I can. and that's it. I mean, it's a simple thing. And, hopefully people you share the space with will understand and not think, oh dear, should I worry about her? But it's a way of taking down the overwhelm. It's like you're communicating to the items, just like people have demands on us. So do the items in our space. They have demands on us. And just speak to those demands. Just take the overwhelm down. Thank you for waiting for me. I'm coming to you. Yeah. Thank you for that, Libby.
Thank you. That's incredible.
Christine, can you say what you mean by the power of play here?
Sure. That's my jam about interplay.
Yeah.
But this podcast by Andrew Huberman came out, and he talks about how you can use play as adults to rewire and improve your brain. So, I mean, things like games, things like your Wordle, things like interplay, which uses movement and storytelling and voice, like looking for ways to play as an adult, that it really helps improve brain elasticity and our memories and things to do, and not to just poo-poo that, like, oh, that's for kids, that it really is important. It's not just for fun, it's for our health. So
Yeah. And so that's why it's really important for me to have some time in the morning, to have some time in the evening with my husband. We get at least an hour of snuggling a day. And, we used to call it snuggling, but then I went to a trauma resiliency class, and now I call it co-regulation because that's what it is, ladies. If you've got an animal that loves you and you're petting that animal and you're loving on that animal, or if you have someone who loves you in your space and you're hugging on that person, that's co-regulating your nervous system. That's good for you. So I make sure I have weekend time, and I also make sure I have time off. So I took 9 days off in March. Starfire.
So I have a couple of questions. First of all, there's been a lot of things, deaths, putting down pets, lawsuit, communication, that kind of thing. And so like not last year, but the year before, I had 12 deaths in 12 months. So I have had, I've had to raise my relationship with technology to a point where I hadn't done that before. I haven't quite figured out how to undo that. I feel like it's almost a trauma response. Like, you know, I have to check to see that kind of thing, because right now I'm in town. I had a death in the family. Leslie's putting down her cat. I had a family court thing. I mean, there's just like,
Right.
I just feel like it's just off the charts. And so when I was talking with Bonnie, one of the things that my problem is wanting more balance. And like, for me, I moved everything into my house, shoved it into closets, and then for 3 years they just stayed floor to ceiling stuff. So I've emptied out all 3 of those closets as a result of this class. But the thing is that when I pulled all that stuff out, it was as traumatizing as all those deaths. And I know, I mean, I did my best I had to do my best because we had to rebuild the closets the way that we needed. So I had to live with it up to a certain point, but it almost made me sick. So the truth is I probably spent triple digits of time as opposed to 36 plus hours, honest, truly. When I started thinking about the fact that I built these closets, I pulled that stuff out and then I had to organize it and put it back in. But my question is, for me, it felt like it was healthier to have the order because of the trauma level that I feel like my body has been dealing with, that I lost my balance and would work, you know, 14-hour days to do that work. And I'd like some feedback, some either kudos or you really screwed up here. I'd really like a reality check, because it just felt like it was more traumatizing to have everything in the living room, the dining room, the hallway, the guest bedroom, than to work a 16-hour day and put that shit up. So that's because I mean, that wiring, that stuff was like as bad as the electronics to me.
Right, right. You were in survival mode.
Mhm.
You were in survival mode. And so, you know, I would just say celebrate, acknowledge and celebrate whatever you did to get through that. First of all the deaths and everything that happened, that was the reason for everything going into the closets. And then when it all had to come out, so those closets could get repaired and handled, you know, that was, as you say, re-traumatizing. Celebrate everything you did to get through that and make a deliberate decision now going forward of how you want to manage your time and what will create the right balance for you. But I just have to say, you got through it. So you need to take the win, because that was a big effing deal. Yeah, that was a big, huge deal. Yeah. Yeah. And I would say this to any of you who've had, you know, a lot of the times, the reason that we have all this clutter that piles up is we've had big challenges, whether financial or with parents' health or with demands on our time. We've had big challenges, and things needed to go on the back burner. And so, you know, so celebrate, acknowledge and celebrate whatever you did to get through all of that. And now we can make a different choice, a deliberate decision. Okay. I want to move into
Hey,
like,
Melody,
yes.
I had my hand up, I think
Oh,
before
yes.
Starfire, but it's hard to see it. So I won't take long. I was gonna go back really quickly. So you were talking about the phones and all that. A lot of us use our phones for an alarm, but you
Yes.
can just like hit the alarm, whatever. But there's also a lot of the meditation stuff that I use as insight timer. It's all in that. So I think there's a balance of like, don't check the Facebook or put a 30-minute limit on Facebook and Instagram or whatever the hell one you're on or whatever. And, you know, don't feel like you have to share everything you're doing. I don't. I was just on a yoga retreat and nobody knows except like my close friends. I don't need to post when I'm at an airport. I don't need to post when I'm at a restaurant. Here's what I'm eating. Who gives a shit? I mean, some of it is, happy Easter, whatever. Like it's nice to see the pictures, but it's silly. It gets a little silly, but there is like this mind thing. And that leads me to part 2, relating to what Christine said, I think, about the games and the brain activity you were talking about. We actually purposely did that during the pandemic. My husband and I do the Wordle, which is new, obviously, in the last few months, but we do a game called Wordscapes, and we do the New York Times crosswords, minis, but just things like that every day to challenge our brain, especially when it was like in the heat of things, along with outside stuff and all the rest of it. So I just was going to tap into that. Technology, it can be a beast, but it's also good. You just have to teach yourself and wean yourself off it. It's like having too much dessert or something, I think sometimes.
I agree. I think some of those meditation apps are wonderful. I think some games are really wonderful and some are absolutely horrible. So, we just have to be honest with ourselves when we're doing something repeatedly for the like jolt of what is it, epinephrine or whatever it is that the brain gets from winning a thing, and then you just want to repeat that and repeat, and before you know it,
the high
30 minutes has gone by,
right.
and you've not accomplished a thing. Now that can actually, when you find yourself, whether it's whatever it is, over shopping, overeating, whenever playing a game in an addictive way, just know that is a trauma response. That's a trauma response. So take a deep breath and ask yourself what you need and what this is a substitute for. What do you really need? Maybe it's sleep. Maybe it's taking a walk, getting some fresh air, but make a deliberate decision. All right. So I want to go into monthly, because so what I did when I sort of mapped out my week for you, I kind of showed you like how I structure as an entrepreneur, how I structure my time. And so I like those projects, the home care kind of self-care projects for me are usually on Fridays, so that I have time to go hiking and go on the motorcycle with my husband, like fun stuff on the weekends I'm not working. But I want to now look at how I manage my home and my space when we look at the year. So I want you to think of each unit of storage in your home, each shelf in a bookshelf, each shelf in a closet, each cupboard, each medicine cabinet. I want you to start thinking of units of space, units of storage. Now, one option, which not very many of my clients do, is that they spend the entire month of January and they go through every single system, every unit of space in their home in 1 month, and they clean it, they declutter, they update the system. But not very many people that I work with anyway, most of my clients are working full-time, they don't have the time to spend an entire month out of the year doing that. So I'm going to share with you what I do. And I'm not saying this is a good template for you, because likely our lives are different, but I want you to get a feel for what my priorities and values are and how I do this. So in January, which is my birthday month, I edit all of the holiday decorations as I'm putting them away. So I always have at least a bag of holiday decorations I feel like we're done with. And I've winnowed them down over the years. And then I take them back up into the attic where they're stored. In February, I do our bedroom, our bathroom, and our closet. And so this is like before Valentine's Day. I sort, edit, clean, refresh our personal space. In addition, I change out the pillows and some of the hand towels, just the linens in our bedroom, so that how it looked over the holidays is now different. And then in March, I do the living room, our media, and our books. And I do change the living room pillows several times a year. Like I have seasonal altars with table linens and flower arrangements or different things that I use for the seasons, including living room pillows. In April,